Welcome to my channel, my Holland Drive-Through. My name's Bobby. This is a music channel. I have been meaning to make this for a long time, and I want to do at least an episode or two a week, hopefully more than that as time goes on. But for now, let's just stick with one or two a week. Dealing, I guess, mainly with vinyl, but generally lots of music. I guess where I would like to differ from other similar things on YouTube and the internets is where other people often just review things that may or may not be good. I'm going to make mainly positive suggestions. I'm going to be showing off my record collection, my vinyl collection mostly, maybe some CDs here and there. But I guess the fact that I've bought this stuff, I've paid for it, means I'm not going to pay for crap. And so I've committed my hard-earned dosh to it, and therefore I reckon it's good. And I'm trying to sort of spread the love, share the goodness with whoever might be listening or watching. So without further ado, my first video is going to focus on my favourite 10 releases of this year so far. I say so far because it's the 5th of October today. There's still 3 months left in a very busy music year. So I'm not going to make any final decisions until at least the 31st of December. So this is my top 10 so far. I did a similar thing on my Instagram channel a couple of months ago, I think, and I think that was a top 40 of the first 6 months. I don't have time to show you 40 records today, and we could be here all day if I do, so I'm just going to narrow it down to 10 for now. This is in no particular order. It's just the ones that I've probably the most enjoyed, the ones that have spent the most time playing for whatever reasons. I'm going with my gut here. Of course, there's no definitive way to measure these things. And that's enough self-defense. So I'm going to start by, take the cover off for you. This arrived in the mail at the beginning of this week. I think you can see there's a lenticular cover. Sometimes it's Janelle, sometimes it's several people. Janelle Monae's Dirty Computer is one of my faves this year. There she is. And they've done a splendid job. I mean, this thing took a while to arrive. It just came out this week, whereas the album came out, I think, back in, I don't know, March or around then. So, look, it's worth the wait. This thing sounds amazing on wax. It's one of the best pop albums I've heard for a very long time. You can feel Prince's influence throughout, particularly on that early single, Make Me Feel. But there's other things going on as well. Brian Wilson makes an appearance on the title track, which really suits the sort of Beach Boys style harmonies going on in the background there. The collaboration with Grimes is very excellent. The song's called Pink. They managed to kind of merge both artists' sounds really successfully. Yeah, I mean, the fact that they sort of, their aesthetics, I guess, is really complementary. Happens to work really well. There's not really a dud track. I mean, I could list all the tracks and say you should hear all of these, but I think it works as a whole album. I don't know if it's a concept album. It sort of feels like it maybe is intended to be one, but I'm not quite sure exactly how to articulate what the concept is. It feels tighter than her previous few album releases, which have all been much sort of longer, more sprawled. This is nice and compact. It's 14 tracks, but I think 2 of those are sort of interludes. Yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome, which I think is really nice. Secondly, probably my favourite album cover this year. How's that album cover? I'm going to hold it up to the camera. La Luz. I'm not sure how to pronounce the band's name. I don't think I've ever heard it said out loud. It's called Floating Features. If you've never heard of the band before, I think I hadn't heard of the band until this year. Sort of imagine doo-wop harmonies, surf guitars, and garage rock, basically. Sort of those three things combined. Three excellent genres meshed into one. I mean, what's not to love, right? It's a lot of fun. If you want to Spotify it first, start with Cicada. Mean Dream's great. California Finally is one of my favorites as well. It's a great fun listen. It's not particularly challenging to listen to. It's background as well as foreground music, I suppose. But really great music that I was pretty excited about this year. Thirdly, Anna Calvi's album called Hunter, which just arrived, I think, a few weeks ago. Great cover, isn't it? Excellent cover. Again, if you've never heard of Anna Calvi, I guess think sort of 90s, early PJ Harvey kind of aesthetic, slightly gothic maybe. It's a great album. Excellent songs, like she's a fantastic songwriter. She also plays a mean guitar. Sort of lyrically, it's quite topical. She challenges a lot of the traditional gender roles that people still like to argue about these days. And very sort of 90-ish production. Excellent studio band. Martin Casey makes an appearance on bass. Martin Casey from Nick Cave's Bad Seeds. And Adrian Utley from Portishead also plays all sorts of analog synth contraption things. The band sounds amazing. I have to say Indies or Paradise, the track is called Indies or Paradise. That groove on that song is straight out of Nick Cave's Do You Love Me? Just put those two songs on together and they'll be as complimentary as, I don't know, The Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon, I reckon. Check out Don't Beat the Girl Out of My Boy. Check out the title track, Hunter. As a Man's great. And Wish is towards the end of the album. And Wish has a fantastic sort of groove, bass line. Tremendously good album. Fourthly, Cardia Bonet's Child Queen has spent a lot of time on the platter this year. I discovered her at the beginning of this year. I found her 2016 EP called The Visitor to be enormously interesting, and I couldn't believe I had not heard of her until early this year. So I picked that up, and then as soon as she dropped this new album, I had to get that as well. It's kind of early 70s psych soul, but like even more psychedelic. Just think of it like a dream about early 70s psych soul. It's very sort of trippy. Her string arrangements and the vocal arrangements sort of are really good throughout the album. She's got very sort of idiosyncratic harmonic stuff going on in her songs. The opening lyric from the track Another Time Lover says another time, another place. That's sort of repeated throughout the song, and it sort of sums up the mood or the spirit of this album. She feels like she is from another time and another place. It doesn't feel very 2018, and sometimes that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. If you also want to check out some other tracks on Spotify or anything first, check out the title track, Child Queen, is terrific. Delphine is also very good. Mother Maybe has a terrific kind of groove thing going on. It's almost danceable, perhaps. So Cardia Bonet's Child Queen, please check it out. She deserves to be more well-known than she is. Next up is Parquet Court's Wide Awake, which again has spent a lot of time on the platter this year. Great Great art on the back cover as well. I don't know if you can see it properly there. So look, they're sort of post-punk, I guess, sounding. They're expanding their sound quite a bit with this release. Danger Mouse produced this album, and it sounds just a bit sort of fatter, a bit warmer, a bit more polished, but you don't want it too polished for that kind of genre. And it's not too polished. They are getting a bit groovier, the band members, in their middle age, which is nice to see. I mean, tracks like Total Football, Almost Had to Start a Fight, In and Out of Patience, they still have this gritty kind of punky edge, which, sort of reminds the listener of their older stuff, and that's great. But other tracks like Freebird 2, Tenderness, the final track, have almost like a 70s classic rock feel to them, which sounds good. It's sort of counterintuitive, but they sound good doing that. There's also a new wave thing going on in a few tracks, particularly on the title track, Wide Awake, which is a belter, by the way. That's a fantastic track. And also a track called Back to Earth. Sounds a bit sort of new wavy, with its quirky bass line. Really good variety of sort of mostly guitar-oriented indie rock, I suppose. Definitely a fave from this year. Next up is, finally, we get a debut album from Rolling Blackout's Coastal Fever, probably one of the most confusingly worded band names of all time. It's called Hope Downs. They're local Melbourne lads. I live in Melbourne, by the way, so it's good to see, lads from the hometown kicking it on the world stage. It's really good jangle kind of pop. If you're into sort of vintage IRS kind of era REM or even go-betweens, look no further, etc. Talking Straight is, sort of radio-free Europe for 2018. Mainland, Air Conditioned Man, Cappuccino City, there's a lot of great things going on throughout the album. They're a 3-guitar band, which, sort of theoretically, in less able hands, that would mean that they would sound like a mess. But these guys know how to play, they know how to arrange their material successfully. It sounds brilliant. Definitely a band to keep your eye on going to the future. So please check out Hope Downs. Next up is Carly Uchis's Isolation. I should really take these sleeves off, shouldn't I? They're a bit reflective. Some albums don't sound like the cover. This album does not sound like its cover. I'm not saying its cover is bad. It's just, I don't know, a little generic or something. The album is anything but generic. It's very varied, very varied. It's totally unexpected. I did not expect to love this album as much as I have. Excellent songwriting, clever production, some very well chosen collabs. Steve Lacy, Georgia Smith, Gorillaz, Tyler the Creator, even Bootsy Collins makes an appearance. It means that, the album sort of treads various genres, but sort of cohesively and, with credibility, I suppose. She's sort of borrowing these artists' authenticity, if you like. Look, After the Storm is an excellent sort of contemporary funk soul sort of track. In My Dreams is some great sort of arty, psychedelic sort of dance pop, I guess. Tyrant and Just a Stranger, really good sort of contemporary R&B. Flight 22 is very kind of kitschy, retro soul. It's a ballad, so sort of retro soul ballad. And the opener, Body Language, is kind of a psych bossa nova, right? So it sort of goes everywhere. She shows huge diversity, like musical diversity, throughout the album. She's setting herself up for a very interesting career, I think. This is her debut album. So if you haven't given it a listen, please do. I really, really recommend it. It's just got a vinyl release, I think, a month or so ago. So I was waiting for this one to get a press, and yeah, really, really glad that that happened. I think number 8, Jonathan Wilson. Rare Birds is the name of the album. Again, I'm going to hold this one up. This is probably my second favourite cover this year. Probably can't see the reflective gold kind of material, whatever you call it, on the cover there, sort of embossed. What an album! It's a massive release from Jonathan Wilson. It's his 3rd album, and he's kind of like a lot of artists I've talked about already. He's expanding his sound this year. It's not so much just the exclusive Laurel Canyon thing, the early 70s thing that he was known for until now. I mean, it does do some of that, but it also does a lot of other things this time. So he's opening himself up to a wider range of influences. Things on here also have a bit of a psych sheen to them. Everything feels like it's sort of being heard through the oral equivalent of, I don't know, rose-tinted glasses or something. And yeah, look, check out Trafalgar Square. There's a very kind of sprawled psych thing going on there. Check out Miriam Montague. It sounds like sort of swinging London era via a Casio beatbox. The ballads on here, there's a few ballads. Me, Sunset Boulevard, Mulholland Queen, great title, are mostly piano-led and gorgeously produced, so check those out. And even the more up-tempo tracks, Over the Midnight, There's a Light, Loving You, Hard to Get Over, they recall more contemporary artists, I guess, like The War on Drugs, even Tame Impala, that sort of psych thing going on. As much as they do older 70s classic artists like ELO. So it's going everywhere. I think Jonathan Wilson's time with Roger Waters in Roger Waters' band recently has allowed him to perhaps develop some confidence in other sort of aesthetics which he didn't have before, or maybe his time producing people like Father John Misty has also given him that sort of range that he feels confident in other sort of musical domains, more so now than he used to. So, terrific album, Rare Birds by Jonathan Wilson. Second last, this is number 9, the US Girls album called A Poem Unlimited. Again, it's a great cover, and again, I should take the plastic off. It's a terrific listen. Confession time, I hadn't heard Meg Remy's previous album before this one came out, so I almost didn't know what to expect. But I absolutely adore it. I think she's done such a spectacular job at, assembling a band that sounds at once sort of, it recalls the disco era, I suppose, but at the same time it's doing something very, very new and very sort of different and original. It's art pop. It sounds so accessible. It's very poppy on the surface, but then if you sort of listen to the lyrics and the sort of musical subtleties of the recordings, there's a huge amount of things going on at once here. So yeah, once you get past the fact that her voice sounds very similar to Kylie Minogue's, it takes you a couple of songs to sort of just go, how is this not Kylie Minogue? Once you get past that, it's lyrically very arty, profound, it's painful, it's articulate, it's as personal as it is political. She sort of goes everywhere. Personal highlights would include a track called MAH, which if you listen to it the first time, it sounds like a kind of sort of breakup disco anthem of empowerment. And then you realise that it's about Barack Obama and losing faith in his political ethics. So it's a breakup song about Barack Obama. It's yeah, it's great disco music, and you might not even know what you're dancing to, but who cares? It's amazing. Rage of Plastics is like this sort of shuffle strut thing about infertility. Um, Best of all for me is the final track called Time. It's sort of a mantra type vocal thing. There's not a huge amount of words in the song, but it sounds just so good. It sounds like Remain in Light by Talking Heads sort of mixed with, if anyone knows the Walker Brothers album Night Flights from the late 70s, sort of famously, it flopped, but Scott Walker's production on that was exquisite at the time, highly influenced by people like Bowie in Berlin. It sounds, yeah, that of that era, the late 70s kind of new wave thing was kicking off, and this track Time is very reminiscent of that period. But again, sort of doing something slightly different and contemporary with it as well. So please check out US Girls, A Poem Unlimited. And finally, Beach House's 7 is spending a lot of time on the turntable this year because it's very, very good. It's dark, it's dreamy, it feels more widescreen than their previous releases, which felt a bit sort of sonically narrower. It's bolder, it's more confident from the outset. The opening track, Dark Spring, recalls My Bloody Valentine at their most sort of majestic sounding. Pay No Mind is a slow burn sort of precision type, indie guitar. They're very relaxed, but they know exactly what they're doing. Lemon Glow, I think that was the first single from the album. It's very trippy dream pop. Drunk in LA feels like it should have been in last year's Twin Peaks season 3, live at Bang Bang Bar. It's that sort of moody, introspective, Lynchian type dream pop. My favourite on the album is Black Car, which has this amazing arpeggiated synth line throughout. It's got a drone organ. It's got octave voices, the male and the female an octave apart. It's got this kind of ghostly snare on the 2 and the 4. It's amazing on headphones. It's amazing in speakers. Turn off the lights, just bliss out to Black Car. And everyone, that's my 10 selections. So just to quickly go through them again: Beach House's 7, US Girls, A Poem Unlimited, Jonathan Wilson's Rare Birds, Carly Uchis's Isolation, Rolling Blackouts, Coastal Fevers, Hope Downs, Parquet Court's Wide Awake, Cardia Bonet's Child Queen, Anna Calvi's Hunter, La Luz's Floating Features, and finally Janelle Monae's Dirty Computer, which has 2 different covers really. And that's my first video. I hope you all enjoyed that countdown or list. I'm going to do lots more lists, but I'm also going to do album reviews, discussions, all sorts of things like that in the near future. So please hit subscribe and leave a comment underneath if you agree, if you disagree, if you have anything to add to the discussion, please feel free, and I'll see you next time. Bye.